Okay, guys. For the potter's wheel, you guys are going to have 3 assignments. Your first assignment is 2 identical cylinders. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how a potter's wheel works. On the side, there's an on-off switch. Okay, so when you turn it on, the light should come on. And if it doesn't, it means it's not working. There we go. Now, some of the wheels turn both ways. Some of them only turn one way. This one only turns counterclockwise. Okay, if you are right-handed, you're going to want it to turn counterclockwise. If you're left-handed, you want it to turn the other way, okay? Every time you work on the wheel, you want to put a bat on here. So the bat allows you to put this on the pegs and work on something, and then when you're done, pick it up without having to handle the pot and smash it, okay? These are splash guards, and these come off. So I'll show you how to take them off when it's cleanup time. So for your first project, it's 2 identical cylinders, and you're going to go through a lot of clay to actually get this finished. So you can use as much clay as it takes. But when I say identical cylinders, I mean the same height, same thickness, same diameter, perfectly matching. Okay, so the best way to get 2 identical cylinders is to always start with identical size of the clay. So what I would do is wedge up about 5 of these, same size, and just have them ready to go. Okay? So when you get started, you're just going to have your clay wedged, and you're just going to slam it down. Okay? This has to be dry, otherwise it won't stick. Go ahead and get all your tools, and you'll need a bucket of water as well. And the first thing you're going to do is center the clay. So when you look at this clay right now, see how when you spin it, it's wobbly. Okay? And you don't want it wobbly. Also, when you're working on the wheel, you want to have it about medium speed. You never want to be going this fast when you're throwing, because things just get crazy, okay? So I like to just kind of get it at a medium speed, which, that's good, and then take your foot off. You don't have to keep your foot on there like a gas pedal to keep it going. So put your both feet on the ground, scoot up as close to the wheel as you can, and you're going to be like this. So both of your elbows at all times should be on your legs. Okay, so you need to get it gliding a little bit fast. Just a little bit of water to keep the clay kind of gliding on your hands. First thing you're going to do is center, which means to get the clay not wobbly anymore. There's a couple ways to center. One way is to have elbows down and just use your whole hand and just squeeze in. Okay, now you'll notice how it's getting taller. But after I do that once, I'm going to smash it back down. So I lock my thumbs together like this. I've still got one elbow on this hand right here. And while my hands are locked together, I'm going to push it down back into sort of like a cone shape. This also kind of helps to wedge the clay a little bit too. It doesn't necessarily have to get that tall though. But if you're squeezing really hard, it might get that tall. Okay? If you ever have clay covering your hands, just scoop it off. Okay, don't try to put it back on, it's not going to stick. And you just need to keep your hands in one position until it's centered. And you'll know it's centered because when you spin it, it looks like it's not moving anymore. Okay, so that's pretty centered. So that is a good way to center. There's a couple different ways, and you can try whichever way works for you. So this is one way to center it, and you just keep your hands there and you just keep pushing. Okay, if that doesn't work for you, you can also take your hands like this, elbows on my knees still, and I'm just pulling the clay toward me, like I'm trying to tuck it into my body like a football, okay? And if that doesn't work the other way, there's lots of different ways to center, so find which way works for you. Put your hands together like this, elbows down still, and you're just going to push forward. So this is centered. You can't do anything else until it is centered. Okay, so don't try to skip to the next step. It may take you all hour to center it. It took me about 20 years to learn how to center it. So don't get frustrated if you don't get it in the first 5 minutes. Alright, now that it's centered, the next step is to open it. Right now it's a solid lump of clay. So when you open it, elbows on knees still. Put your thumbs right in the center, And you're just going to drill down with your thumbs. And you want to drill down until you get about a ½ inch from the bottom, okay? How are you going to know that you're a ½ inch from the bottom? You're going to stop. Stop the wheel, and that's what the potter's needle is for also. You're going to push the potter's needle down till you touch the back. Slide your finger down to the top of the clay, and that tells me that's how thick the bottom is. So that's good. You don't want to go any thinner than that. Okay? Now, this is technically a cup in the sense that it could hold some water. This is still way too thick. You want to get your clay walls about 1/4 of an inch thick all the way up and down. So you're going to have to do what's called pulling. So from now on, most of the work you're going to do on the wheel, if you're right-handed, is going to be at the 3 o'clock position, so right here, okay? And to pull, I'm going to put my right hand on the outside of the clay and my left hand on the inside. And I'm going to be squeezing the clay together, so the clay's right here, between my hands and bring them up at the same speed. But my right hand's going to be a little bit lower than my left hand, so it's going to look like that with the clay between. Okay? Sometimes I also like to put a sponge in my right hand because it just grabs onto the clay a little bit better. But I'm still doing kind of the same thing. So, get clay on myself. There. Alright, here we go. So, start at the bottom. First, squeeze your fingers together. Now bring them both up at the same time. Just nice and slow. And then when you get to the top, let go. So you'll have to pull a couple of times because as you can see, that didn't get it quite as quick as I needed to get. You also want to make sure that you don't leave a puddle of water on the inside of your cup because that can cause a crack later on. So let's do it again. I've still got my right elbow on my leg here. I'm going to start by squeezing my fingers together and then bringing both up at the same speed. But again, my right hand is a little bit lower than my left hand. Now let's say you're working and you're pulling and it starts to look not like a cup anymore. It's looking a little bit wider. Okay, that can happen. Not a problem. Just bring it back in. Okay, clay is very plastic and moldable. And if it gets out of shape, just bring it back. Okay, I'm going to pull one more time. And I'll be done pulling. Then I can kind of clean it up. Squeeze my hands together. Bring both hands up at the same speed. Nice and slow and steady, right at the 3 o'clock position. So some of your cylinders might be this tall, some of them might be that tall. There's no height requirement, I just want them to be the same. It just really depends how much clay you start off with. Okay, last thing I do, and I guarantee it's not going to go perfect this time. Sometimes you're going to be doing things and it'll be like, oh my God! Okay, don't freak out. Okay, don't freak out. Sometimes you can fix things. For example, I could probably fix this by just going like that. Okay? And sometimes things will happen where it gets just a little bit too skinny, right? Your kidneys are really great for fixing things too. If you run this kidney along the side, it can really make it nice and smooth. Break that off. And you can also do this on the inside. Okay? Sometimes you're working and the top will get a little bit wonky or a little bit yucky. That's again what your potter's needle is for also. And this takes a little bit of practice. But if you want to cut off the top of the rim, what you're going to do is steady this on your leg. You're going to put the potter's needle in until it goes all the way through and then lift up. Okay? If you don't want to lift up while it's spinning, stop it and then lift up that extra part. Let me show you what the leather is for. Everybody has a piece of leather in there. Get it a little bit wet. You're going to use the fuzzy side. And the piece of leather is great for rims. You don't want to make your rim too thin because it'll be likely to chip. and it's also a little bit sharp when you're drinking out of it. So this makes a nice edge for drinking out of. All right. Now, when you're done, the last thing I do is to give it just a nice cleaning with a sponge, inside and out. And if you want it to be perfectly smooth on the outside, use that. And then there's always a lot of extra clay at the bottom. So I take this is an undercutting tool, and I'm just going to press it down, kind of make a little moat right there and get a lot of that extra clay off. Scrape it, turn it around, put the point in the moat again, and then as you push down, it'll just get rid of that extra clay. Okay, again, that takes a little bit of practice too. Alright, when you're done, and you've got a good mug, you can add a handle to this if you want to, that's just optional. You're going to want to put it on a board. So will you hand me that wooden board right there? You can either let it dry a little bit, or you can put it on the board now. But the best way is to take this, put a little bit of water on your board, on your bat. You're going to run the wire through the water and cut it. Okay, so that gets wire underneath there, underneath the pot, and you can see how it'll just glide off. So now you should be able to just take your pot and put it on. Okay. A little too slippery sometimes. So we'll let this dry to leather hard, not completely. When both of your cylinders are leather hard, you're going to trim them by flipping them over and carving a little foot on. So I'll show you how to do that also at the leather hard stage. There's also a video in Google Classroom about how to trim. And there's a video that I posted about making a cylinder if you want to watch it again or whatever. But the best thing to do is just practice. Now, when it comes to cleaning up, here's how to clean up. You have a little bit of extra clay there. So just spit it and clean it off. I would just use the water that's already in your bucket to clean. Go ahead and clean that. And the bats are kept in that area right there. These splash guards do come off. So to get them off, you're going to push down on this little tab right here. And this area slides off. Put the extra clay in the bucket. Do not put clay down the sink. There's already some clay down there that is dry. We'll have to scoop it out. So that one's clean. This one shimmies off like that. And you can just clean it out in the bucket as well. Some of you might have chunks of clay in there in the splash guard. That's fine. And you can wash this off in the sink too, but I think it's pretty easy just to do that. And then you'll want to clean off your tools and this part of your wheel as well. So you guys are going to be working with the same wheel every day, so just clean your wheel, and that way when you come, it should be clean for you next time. You can dump water from here down the sink, but if there's any lumps of clay like this, just put those in the pud mill. Alright? It's going to be harder than it looks, so just be willing to accept failure and learn from them. You'll be alright. So if you want to get started today, you can. Today can be just like a explore the wheel practice kind of day. If you're done with your slab project, did you just cut off?